Hey guys, my name's Kian Hushman, and today we're going to be checking out how to get a crushing modern metal tone for 100% free. Let's have a look. Just before we start, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for the support on the channel recently, especially the last video. There was a lot of new subscribers and engagement coming from that last video. So with that being said, if you guys like anything that you see in this video at any time, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe because it really does help the channel out. I also have an Instagram at Kian Hushman Live, which I'll leave on the bottom somewhere for you guys. Links for that will be in the description, as well as the links for everything that's used in the video today. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So just to start, I'll go through everything that's in the session so you guys get a rough idea of what's going on. So we got a drum track here. This was bass MIDI that's now exported into a bass wave file, bass DI. And then we got my two guitar DIs here. And then this is just like an ambient kind of track. So altogether, it sounds just like the intro. I'm just going to go through all the processing that I put on for both of these guitar DIs. And they're exact same for the both of them, and then they go into the same guitar bus. So starting off, we have G-Tune. This is just a tuner plugin. I use this on pretty much every single guitar track I ever put on when I'm playing. This thing is crazy. It's free. You guys should definitely check it out. I use it all the time. Straight after that, we have G-Gate. This is just like exactly what it sounds. It's a gate, and I have the threshold pretty high actually. Attack and fade all the way off. I wanted to have that really like tight kind of genty sound. But if you do think that sounds too artificial, you can put the fade up and kind of let the gate fade into it. And then straight after the gate, we have the classic TSC 808 Overdrive plugin. This is absolutely free and sounds killer. I just set this up as I set up any other overdrive pedal. I put the drive all the way off, volume sitting at around like 8.5-ish, and then the tone I like pretty high, so I chuck the tone up. Again, I said in my last video that you shouldn't follow these settings as gospel. You should kind of like get the gist of it and then apply it to your own gear and your own pickups and your own guitar, because me having the tone up here might not work for having it on your guitar. It might sound too shrill, or you might need to push it even more. Straight after the pedal, we have another instance of G-Gate. That's just to clamp down on the stuff that's coming out of the pedal to get it even tighter. Nothing much more going on there. And now getting into the good stuff. Ignite Amps Emissary? I don't know how to pronounce it, but this thing sounds killer, and it is 100% free. You guys can download this from STL Tones' website. And it does come with this handy little IR loader, which we'll get into in a sec. But basically, the settings that I've got on this right now are pretty much almost the same as it comes when you load it up, except the only drastic changes I've pushed low mids all the way off. But going through everything one by one, on the back you can change the power tubes and stuff like that. I have kept it on 6L6s. I did experiment with EL34s, but I don't know, it was lacking something, so I just left it on 6L6s. It sounded good to me. So going through every knob on the lead channel one by one, starting off at gain. I've turned the bright switch on. It kind of makes it sound brighter. Obviously, it gives it that modern push that a lot of modern metal music has. I've turned the gain down quite a bit. Reason being is that I do pick hard, and this is a pretty gainy amp to begin with, so I didn't need all that excess gain, and it was just kind of getting like almost like washy. So I did turn it down quite a bit, just enough that I can get as much aggression as I need out of it and do get some string definition. Moving on to the bass, pretty standard, just a little bit off center. I haven't turned the deep switch on because it did sound a bit woofy when I did, so I left it off. Low mids, I've just turned all the way off. Either it's probably because I have a Jackson Juggernaut. The low mids are pretty prominent anyway, so I just smashed them all the way off. But if your guitar isn't as prominent in the low mids, you can play around with it and leave it a little bit high if you wish. Moving on to probably the most influential part of this whole plugin, it is the high mids knob. Reason being is that this shape switch does color your sound a lot, to the point where I kept a dead center in the middle on the high setting on the shape, so I flicked it up. When you flick it down, it gets a little bit more like death metal-y, if I say that. I don't know, it's like a characteristic that a lot of death metal bands use, but when you flick it up, it's a lot more modern, a lot more honky, a lot more like genty modern metal, stuff like that. The treble knob I have trimmed down a little bit, but I have pushed up presence pretty much all the way. Reason being is that in this mix, at least, the guitars weren't as bright as I'd like them to be, so I put the presence all the way up. That being said, if you feel like you don't need to put it all the way up and you can kind of leave it wherever you want, as long as it's over halfway, I'm guessing it should be fine. But if you do want to have that like in your face kind of sound, then the presence knob should definitely be up. And last but not least, the depth knob, which I have turned down to sit somewhere just above 9 o'clock. The reason being is that when I turned it up, it did sound a bit woofy. It kind of like took over the whole tone, and I just didn't really rate it for my playing style, so I turned it down. And it does clean up your playing a lot when you turn down that depth knob. So that's basically it for this plugin. Not much to it. It can get very intricate if you do dial in everything exactly how you'd like it, but I feel like this is a great middle ground for having a very, very good modern metal tone. Of course, turn over sampling on high if your computer power allows it. That will only make it sound better. Moving on to the cabinet, we are using an IR loader, an impulse response loader from SDL Tones and Ignite amps. They worked on NAD IR, and what I've got loaded into it at the moment is ML Sound Lab's best IR in the world. This IR you can find on a YouTube video that Miko from ML Sound Lab put up a couple years back, which he basically gave away a free impulse response in both he gave it in SYX, so fractal, he gave it in IR, and he gave it in wave format for normal impulse response loaders. And this thing will do anything from like classic rock to modern rock to country to metal. I'm not sure on the exact cab that this was modeled after, but if I had to guess, I'd guess it'd be like a Mezzo rectifier or something like that, like a 4x12. Either way, it doesn't matter what it is, it sounds absolutely killer, and it will work with almost anything that you throw at it. Final part of this plugin chain is the TDR Nova equalizer, and this is 100% free. Again, link is in the description, and it's basically a 4-band EQ with a high and low pass. So starting off with the high pass and low pass, we have a high pass at 72 Hz at 12 dB slope, and then we have a low pass at 13K at 12 dB slope as well. I'm only using 2 bands of EQ. Reason being is that I didn't want to mess with the original tone too much. I just wanted to clean up some stuff. They're very, very, very slight movements, but when you do stack it against 2 guitars, it does have a difference. So starting off, we have a little dip, a 1.6 decibel dip at 240 Hertz. This is just to clean up that low mid staticky kind of sound that a lot of digital amps do have, and it does clean up the tone quite considerably. And in an effort to tame the high end just a touch at negative 0.5 dB, we do have a very, very broad cut at 3.8. That kind of like 4K-ish area, but I have put it at 3.8 because to my ears, that is what sounded like it was doing the most difference, especially when stacked with 2 rhythm guitars. Just to take it a step further, we do have a guitar bus that is also 100% free, and we are using 2 instances of the TDR Nova equalizer plugin again, and then we're using G Multi as a multi-band compressor. I'm just going to go through this very briefly because it will change from mix to mix, but basically we just have a high pass going on, a little dip at around that 240 Hz area again, just a slight cut at 800 Hz just to kind of get that coney frequency out. Again, another cut around that 4K Hertz range to get that kind of harshness out of the guitar, and then another low pass. And then we do have another instance of the equalizer that is just pushing up some high end to bring the guitars to life. And you might say to me, oh, why did you cut out high end here and then again in the guitar bus? When you're only going to push it up more here. And honestly, truth be told, that's just the way I do it. And I feel like when you do it this way, it's because it's a more gradual kind of, it encompasses all the high end. It does sound a lot more natural as opposed to just pushing up certain frequencies one by one until you kind of get it the way you want. I think that'd just be a bit weird. So I feel like having this like slight slope upwards into the high end is kind of like a more natural way of bringing everything up. And last but not least, we do have a multi-band compressor that is just acting on palm mutes and stuff like that. Bands 2 and 3 are doing absolutely nothing. The only band that's doing something is that low band, band 1. And the reason being is that I just wanted to cut out a bunch of low end every time I hit a fat palm mute, because when I palm mute, it'll get really bloomy, really bassy, and it will interfere with the bass and the kick drum and just get too overwhelming. So you want that just to cut that low end out so everything sits in the mix just that touch better. I'll play a little bit so you guys can see like where it's cutting out. These 2 lines here will indicate every time it peaks over, it'll just cut out. Perfect example, when I just palm muted, it took out a bunch of that low end so it doesn't interfere with the bass, but you still get the punch. And that is how you get a modern metal tone for 100% free. Again, links for all of that will be in the description. I'll give it one more playthrough, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.